Hello, iSpa family, and welcome to Heart of the Matter. I'm Brennan Evans, and I'm excited to bring another edition of this exciting series, which brings together luminaries from a variety of fields and backgrounds for in-depth conversations intended to spark thought, discussion, and inspiration in the spa industry and beyond. Today, it's my privilege to share in one of those conversations with Donny Starkins. Donny is a yoga instructor, mindfulness teacher, and personal development coach who has shared his own inspirational story with audiences around the world. I've had the pleasure of getting to participate in some of Donny's yoga classes and mind-body experiences, and I'm a big fan. And Donny, I just want to say thank you for spending time with us today and welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate you having me.
Great. Well, we're going to kind of dive right in. I think we've got some questions to share with Donny and get some of his insights that we think will help our iSpa family and association. So without further ado, Donny, one of the things you coach people on is the practice of mindfulness. What tips and advice have you found yourself sharing with people most during a time which has been extremely stressful for so many?
Wow. Yeah. So there's been a lot of tips. I believe that mindfulness is this ancient practice that has profound relevance for our present day lives, and especially right now. So some very simple and practical tips is, beginning with our breath. And I feel like for most of us, so many people go their entire lives with no relationship to the one thing that gives us life, and that's our breath. And so if we can learn how to breathe the right way, we can learn how to think the right way, which ultimately would allow us to live the right way and show up and be present for ourselves and for everybody else around us. So, this one thing that's been with us since day one is the easiest way to practice mindfulness is through awareness of breath. Our breath brings our mind back to our body. Our body knows where home is, but it's our mind that takes us down these roads. This monkey mind that jumps from branch to branch, likes to be very busy, worried about future, stuck in the past. And so the breath will always bring us back. It's there, and it brings us back to that mind-body connection. And when we connect there, we're more present, and we win, and everybody else wins too. So I feel like that's the most practical tip that we can provide, but also just, right now, knowing that human connection is so important because it's been taken away from in a physical standpoint. So making sure that we're connecting with other people. And even if we have to do it through Zoom or through technology, that we're reaching out to family and making sure that we keep a human connection, knowing that we're all going through this together. Nobody's immune to this. And common humanity tells us that if you're a human being, you're going to struggle. You're going to go through tough times. We're all flawed works in progress. And so ideally, this common struggle should be connecting us. And for a lot of us it is, but then there's also a lot of unfaced fear and other stuff and political stuff and all this noise that has many of us so disconnected also. So connection and taking time to go within and reflecting and going into gratitude and staying grateful for the things that you do have. And, when we practice gratitude, I practice gratitude every morning. My coaching clients, I have them practice gratitude, because when we practice gratitude, we invite more good into our lives because we see more of the good, and we're not so focused on the bad or the things that we can't control.
Yeah, I find it interesting. I've off and on have practiced that art of, they say, write just 3 or 5 things that you're grateful for every morning. Get up and journal and just write 3 or 5 things. And I am pretty fascinated that when I do it, when I take the time to do it, it definitely calms me and sets the tone for a different approach to the day. And it's amazing what you say. Something so simple as figuring out how to breathe right and then just expressing gratitude could completely change your outlook on your day.
So true. And as you're saying that, it makes me think back to even some other tools, some practical things that I'll give my coaching clients, or if I'm doing a speaking engagement, even just from an eating standpoint. So mindfulness, there's also a whole practice of mindful eating, and eating in a stress state is the most counterproductive way we can fuel or feed our bodies. And sometimes if we can just, and even if we're in a rush and we have to get some food in, sitting down, taking 5 deep breaths, or thinking about a few things that you're grateful for, it drops you back into your body. So you're not eating from this flight or fight state mode, which is just not a great way to nourish our bodies. So regardless if it's before eating or waking up in the morning, having this practice brings us back home, and really just brings us back home to the heart. I always like to say that, well, home is where the heart is. We've all heard that saying, but like when our mind goes and we start focusing on fear and all this uncertainty of the things that we cannot control, we get really hooked and really jammed up. And for a lot of people through this whole pandemic, who maybe they were control freaks, and all of a sudden there was this uncertainty. Nobody knew the outcome. No one knows the outcome still, what's going to happen. So when we can really focus on the things we can control and take huge action on those and surrender and accept the things we can't, like there's unbelievable freedom in all of that. And it has to do with breathing, and it has to do with gratitude, because it all has to do with our perspective and the way we see the world. So it all ties into mindfulness. And I feel like even on our conversation here with some of this Q&A, it's going to always come back to some similar components, the foundation of everything in mindfulness.
Yeah, that's great. And you reminded me of something that we talked about when we met a couple of weeks back, that you really got me thinking about it, and how not good I am at it, which is that 20-20-20 rule around eating. And I'm more like 5-5-5, maybe share a little bit about that, because I think that's fascinating to pay attention to.
Yeah, so mindful eating says, so I always say when you sit down to eat, think of the number 20. So if you're one of those people maybe that always has stomach issues, or your weight kind of, maybe it's plateaued, or you can't just seem to lose that last 10, 5, 20 pounds, it might not be actually what you're eating, but how you're eating. So mindful eating says that we actually need to chew at least 20 times per bite. And even as I say that today, I have to smile because I'm not there. And maybe a tough steak or something you could chew 20 times. But the idea is that chewing and breathing is a vital part of the digestive process. In our brain, it takes 20 minutes for our brain to even determine if we're full or not. And it also takes 20 minutes for the sensory pleasures of our brain to even feel the satisfaction of being full. So we need to give ourselves 20 minutes to have our meals. And we also want to think 20% less, meaning only eat till you're 80% full, not 180% full to where they got to roll you out of the restaurant. But just by practicing it, and sitting down and being present at your meals and putting your phone down and being present with the people at your meals, all of these practices, in addition to just healthier, they're going to help your body composition and weight. But yeah, just being able to calm down, and hey, sometimes that might just sitting down and taking 5 breaths, or sitting down and thinking of a few things you're grateful for, but it will calm your nervous system down so that when you are eating, you're doing it in a way that's actually productive and not counterproductive.
That's great. I pay attention to that, when I'm eating pizza in huge bites. I don't know that I'm actually, but you've planted a seed, so at least that's the good part. So you're planting a seed.
That's a good start, man.
You've worked with people in a variety of fields, including professional athletes. What guidance do you share with an NFL player that translates into the lives of, say, the everyday yogi practitioner?
The practice and the teachings, it's pretty much all the same for the most part, whether you're a NFL football player playing at the highest level or you're in corporate America leading a team. It's the same. And a big one, which I love, and we're changing the narrative with some of the guys and leaders in the NFL that I work with about self-love and loving ourselves first. And I'm not saying that in an arrogant, egotistical way. I'm saying that we can only love somebody else as much as we're willing to love ourselves. So what lack of self-love comes from the way that we talk to ourselves, the way that we judge ourselves, our bodies, our faces, comparing in a disempowering way, and also putting everybody else's needs before our own needs. You know, I always talk about in mindful self-compassion, it's about SelfKindness, which is treating yourself the way you would treat a best friend who might be struggling, maybe messed up, or is feeling inadequate, or facing a tough life challenge. We'll take care of our best friends, but when it comes to us, when we mess up or maybe we've made a mistake, the way that we talk to ourselves is completely different. So mindful self-compassion says 3 components: self-kindness, mindfulness, which in these terms means if you have unwanted emotions or things coming up, or you're facing a challenge, or maybe you have some pain or some loss in your life, to be able to stay with the pain, challenge, or whatever it is long enough to actually work through it. But also not so long to where we over-identify or we catastrophize, where it becomes our story. And what I mean by staying with it long enough, when we have these unwanted emotions that come up, most of us, what we do is we distract, we numb out, we grab our phones, we grab a drink, we engage in activities that numb us out from what we don't want to feel. The only way we truly heal is if we feel. But then there's that balance where we don't hold on to the story of being the victim or the resentment so long to where that becomes our reality. And then the third piece, which I mentioned earlier, of mindful self-compassion, is common humanity, meaning that we're all going to suffer. We're all going to go through tough times. And this is what connects us as humans, the common struggle, instead of disconnecting us. So you're not the only one. If you're going through a tough time right now, whatever that might be, I can promise you, you're not the only one going through it. You're not different. Your situation's not unique. Doesn't mean it doesn't suck right now and that you might be struggling, but there's people out there that can relate. And our work is to reach out and sometimes pick up the 1,000-pound phone and share our struggles with somebody that we trust, so that we don't have that story of that we're alone and nobody understands what we're going through. So long answer to the question of self-love, which this is what we talk about. We talk about emotions, and like, we're not trying to fight through the pain and never let them see you sweat. Like, there's a place for that on the field. But my NFL guys are human beings and they have emotions, and just like everybody else. So being able to process and talk about emotions. And then the same things, mindfulness, breathing, meditation, mindset, like really training the mind to work for us and be our best friend instead of our worst enemy, which also comes back to self-love. The last thing I would say for the athletes is about purpose. I come from an athletic background. I played college baseball at Arizona State, but I had a really traumatic knee surgery my senior year, and it sent me down a very dark road because my identity and purpose was all tied up in baseball. Mm-hmm. And one day it was gone, and I did not know what to do with that loss because it's all I ever knew. And it sent me down a road of an addiction to pain pills. I mean, I went through a major traumatic surgery, and I blamed it on that and the doctors, and that had a part. But really, at its core, I didn't know how to deal with the emotional pain of the loss of the love of my life, my purpose, baseball. So what I share with many of my athletes is like, NFL, Major League Baseball, whatever it is, it's part of your path, but you better know who you are beyond the field, because one day it's going to end for you, whether it's an awesome retirement ceremony where they hang your jersey in the rafters, or your career ends on a dime, on a surgery or an injury. You better know who you are beyond just sports, because one day it is going to end for you. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think it's so relevant to our industry and the spa industry and the wellness industry. I think probably what you say about self-love is what we tend to say about self-care. You know, people that work in this industry, whether they're directors or supervisors or technicians or providers, they're constantly giving of themselves. We're in the service industry, we're in the healing industry. And I think sometimes we are the ones that do the worst at practicing our own self-care to find that balance within ourselves. So I love hearing you say that it relates in every kind of profession, maybe spoken a little bit differently, but it's still synonymous with learning how to love yourself, take care of yourself, and in some ways putting yourself first so you're filling your cup to be full for other people.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I mean that is a huge piece. It's putting everybody else's needs and in your industry, in the service industry, or your a mom who's constantly giving all day long to their children, or a caretaker. And there's this story like from a yoga standpoint, or I'll have clients that will say, well, I feel selfish by going to yoga or getting a pedicure, manicure, massage. Like I should be doing this with my family. And I would say it's actually selfish not to go do those things,
Yeah.
not to take care of yourself. Because if you're not, then the people that matter most to you aren't getting the best version of you. They're getting somebody that's depleted, tired, resentful, and trying to give from that empty cup. So we have to be selfish first. We have to, whatever our self-care practice looks like, needs to be a non-negotiable and needs to be in place so that we can be thriving and not running on empty all the time.
That's great. And, I think within our own company, we've started that practice of saying, we are encouraging you to take this time off. And when you take it off, you're unplugging. You are not going to be expected to be present, checking emails, any of that stuff. And it actually becomes contagious, because then when it's kind of like you're paying it forward. You're like, oh, I got my time off. I can hardly wait for you to do this because it's so good. You're going to feel so much better when you come back. And I think that that's something that, again, in our industry, everybody is just so tired. And so a little bit of COVID fatigue with dealing with this stress day in and day out. And I think it's really interesting to hear you talk about that. So thank you very much for walking us through that. Another question for you. So many people have adopted new habits to attend to their overall wellness during the pandemic. But motivation can be a challenge, especially for those who don't have a physical fitness space to visit at the moment. What can people do to maintain the motivation to maintain a healthy new habit, create a healthy new habit, and even when it gets difficult to do? I'll talk a little bit about how we can inspire that motivation for us to start those new habits or maintain them.
So here's some tough love for everybody. It's stop making excuses, because when we stop making excuses, we start making changes. And yeah, the gyms were closed down and there might not be access or you might not feel safe, but there's technology and things called YouTube and platforms and social media where there's any workout you want to do, you can find it. You don't need weights. There's stuff out there. And I think a lot of times we get stuck in this if-then dialogue. Like if I could if COVID ends, I'll be able to go to the gym. If this happens, then. And it's this running dialogue that basically runs the show, and we get caught in this excuse. But like when we stop making excuses and we stop focusing, and another big thing I think where it has us getting demotivated is just fear. And I believe fear can either freeze us or it can fuel us. And so fear is going to be a player in our lives. It's going to be there. But when we change our relationship with it and we actually use fear to motivate us, to fuel us into action, it has us feel motivated. Gratitude has us feeling motivated. And we're focusing on the good. If we're always focusing on the bad, that has us feeling demotivated too. But creating a schedule, and I know things are kind of getting back rolling again, but for many people, when our routine got taken away, and then all of a sudden you don't have a routine, things got really messy. So early on in the pandemic, that was what I was stressing, putting it out there as far as the message was: find a routine. have a routine, get up at the same day, same time, win the morning. I mean, the morning, I truly believe this has been a life-changing experience for me, is making my first hour of my day sacred, making that nothing can get in the way of it. And if I have to get up a little earlier so I don't have those distractions, it's that important to me. And in that first hour, a couple of things that I do and don't do. One is I don't look at my phone. I would say the first 30 minutes, if I'm being really honest. I try to go an hour, but that doesn't always happen. But if I wake up and I just grab my phone, which is what I used to do, grab my phone, look at email, look at text, look at social media, get in reactivity and react and respond to everybody else instead of taking care of myself and building a solid foundation. If I'm out there and I'm just in reaction mode, my foundation is shaky. And let's just say things get very, very messy for me. So my routine in the morning, that first hour, there's some non-negotiables that are in place. And it really is doing my meditation, doing my movement, whether it's yoga, doing Peloton bike, or a HIIT class at home here, and walking my dogs and getting my coffee. But it's a routine where every morning after my coffee, I meditate. So I attached a new, when I wanted to make meditation part of my morning routine, I attached it to something I already did, which was coffee. Mm-hmm. So every morning after coffee, I meditate, where before I would just wake up, grab my coffee, grab my phone. And so I wanted to replace that. And so meditation has been a game changer. You don't have to know how to meditate. You don't have to sit a certain way and be all looking zenned out. When you meditate, you just got to do it. Consistency. You're better off meditating 3 minutes a day, 7 days a week, than trying to meditate twice a week for 10 minutes. And you just sit down and do it. There's apps out there, Aura, AURA, Calm, Headspace, Insight Timer. There's guided meditations. It's all out there, YouTube. So meditation, walking the dogs, that's just getting outside and, kind of being of service, doing something for somebody else. But I enjoy that as part of my routine. And then movement. I must move my body in that first hour. If I don't, things just get messy. Tension in the neck, stress, I get irritable. So it's a non-negotiable. When we travel, me and my fiance, we will actively seek out a resort that has a gym. When they're open, we just plan that because it's part of our routine, because we know if we don't get that, it's not about losing weight and looking good. It's about mental health, period. It's about feeling better. And if I feel better, then I'm going to treat everybody else better, and I'm going to have more peace and purpose and happiness in my life. So having a routine is so important. And then I think just connecting with others and staying connected and not using the pandemic as an excuse to not reach out to others and check in and see how your family's doing.
I love that. I think I've had a good close friend of mine say, when you're stressed and when you're caught up in all of your own kind of drama and anxiety, one of the best things you can do is check on somebody else. Get out of your own chaos and go help somebody else. And it's so true, if you stop yourself and take that time, like you say, a phone call, a text, a check-in, it's amazing. It's amazing how some of these things, you're saying they're simple things. They're not necessarily always easy to do, but they're certainly simple. And I think great ways, to your point, to kind of set that routine, set the tone for your day. And certainly I love, the concept of being of service, helping somebody else, even if it's your dogs. I think that's a great thing. That's awesome.
Yeah. And service, I'm blessed with being in recovery and being sober for many years now, but my messy past led me to this whole new awareness and purpose around service, which that taught me, if I want to get out of my own way, if I want to get out of self-pity and get out of the funk, whatever kind of drama I'm created in my mind, just go help somebody else. Because then you're not thinking about all these problems you have. And so, yeah, man, service is that's a game changer, and it gives us more purpose and a more fulfilling life. And it's kind of selfish, actually, but it's in a way that is actually helping other people, and not a selfish way that's hurting other people or causing any pain or worry in their lives.
That's awesome. Another question, the last 6 months or so have been tough in a lot of ways. As you think about everything 2020 has brought forward, What silver linings stand out to you as we approach the end of the year?
I believe that the people who have taken this time to reflect on what matters most in their lives, learn, learn about just what's happening, learn about themselves and grow. And if we've taken time to reflect, learn and grow, there are unbelievable transformations, powerful stuff that I've witnessed as a coach and mentor for those that are taking this time. There's like this whole new appreciation for life on the things that really matter, where I see a lot of people not chasing the material stuff and really focusing on what matters with family and connection and service and helping other people. So I feel like really just appreciating what matters most in our lives. And really, it almost feels like there's been this big purge and a lot of stuff is coming up. And for those that aren't stuck in fear or playing the victim and just so worried about what we can't control, those that are actually taking action on the things we can control are having unbelievable breakthroughs and transformation, even through the messiness of these last, whatever it's been, 6, 7 months now.
That's great. You know, Donnie, this has been great. You are inspiring. Everything you say makes me want to start making lists and getting myself together and chewing 20 times. For everybody out there, you know, Donnie has a website, donnystarkins.com. There's a lot of information about Donnie and what he does on all levels, on all channels. I encourage you to take a look at that. I'm an avid fan of his Instagram page as well. You can see a lot about his dogs on that Instagram page. Congratulations. I know you recently got engaged as well. That's been great to see. Happy for you.
Thank you.
You know, thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom with the iSpa community. To everyone watching, thank you for joining us as well. And keep an eye on the iSpa social media channels and experienceispa.com for details about upcoming installations of the Heart of the Matter series, as well as other virtual offerings and spa reopening resources. Donnie, thank you again. Everybody, stay well and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Have a good one.